Hey Bubble family, welcome back to the channel. Oh, it's just too hot. I feel like at the minute, rather than actually doing my drink of choice, I think I just want to tip a bucket of ice cold water over my head. Now, one of the lovely things I will say is that I actually have a hot tub, but we've changed the temperature, so it's now a cold tub. And every morning, because I'm trying to get into this the Wim Hof method, so I've been gently easing myself in, and honestly I get it in the minute. It's 25 degrees in the hot tub, which sounds like it's quite warm, but for me it's cold. So as I get in, I'm just like, oh, it's cold, and I'm just like even in this really hot weather, I'm still kind of going, oh, it's cold. But then as I get in it and I adjust to it, I'm like, oh, this is lovely. But I go through the same thing every morning. I'm like tentatively putting like one toe in and then getting that adjusted, and then then putting my other leg in. And I think, why is it my memory cannot kind of grasp the fact that once I'm in, I love it and it's so cool and it's really nice. But initially I'm just like, oh, it's cold. So I feel like at the minute I just feel such a big baby, because it is honestly, it's just, we're not used to this weather in the UK, and it doesn't help there's not really any breeze. I mean, I do feel so sorry for people that are in there, like the cities, when, and at least where I am, I'm by the coast, so it's a lot better. But for the people that are in the cities, you know, bless your heart, you know, anyone that's in this kind of weather or hotter, because I know that a lot of you out there are in really hot countries, and I know you have aircon, and I know you have, you know, like aircon in cars. I mean, we have aircon in cars, but in buildings and things like that. So obviously that is really good for you. But please stay hydrated, and please remember, do not walk your dogs in this weather, because they too can suffer. And not only that, vets are also complaining about the amount of dogs that are being brought in with burnt paws, because people are walking them on concrete. If you honestly get on some concrete and walk yourself on barefoot, you will know how hot that concrete gets. So with the sun shining on it, especially black concrete, so if you imagine how hot that is for you, imagine what it's like for our poor doggies. So please, if you're going to walk your dog, take the dog somewhere where it's a lot cooler, or even wait till the evening when their sun is not so hot on the ground, because these poor little dogs are suffering. Do you know, it's really hard as well, because obviously I'm doing this weekly series on Meghan, and I think a lot of research that I'm doing, I'm struggling to find things that I perhaps want to find, because I think that in the UK we're quite limited. A lot of websites I've looked at are kind of not available, so I need to get a VPN, which I don't like doing, but I think I'm going to have to kind of really delve a bit deeper. But all I'm seeing at the moment is the stuff regarding Harry and the UN, and their body language. And so I feel like next week I'm gonna do a video on this, because it's just so telling. It really is. If ever you wanted to do a real insight into the body language of a couple who I feel are not in love, it's Harry and Meghan. And the fact that he did this just awful speech, where he drones on hypocritic I nearly slipped up there, hypocritically, but there was no one there. There was literally hardly anyone there. There were so many empty seats. Now, I don't know whether this is standard for something like that, but it just seemed very bizarre. And he was just so nervous. But I'm gonna, like I say, I'm gonna do a video on that and a few other things. I know that I feels like at the moment I'm doing a lot of things on Harry and Meghan, but unfortunately this is a lot of what you guys want, and I think we can take a lot from how they behave. I think we can definitely take a lot from that. You know, look at it in behavior in other people, you know, how not to behave. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. And as a therapist, psychology, psychology perspective, they are fascinating viewing, albeit tedious, having to go through copious amounts of footage. But I'm doing it for you guys because I love you, and I know how much you kind of like these videos. So yeah, so that being said, you know what to do by now. Grab your drink of choice, or in my case, just stick a bucket of water over your head with ice in it, because that's probably a lot more refreshing than a drink right now. Make sure that if you are sweating a lot in this heat, replace your electrolytes, because it's not just about the water, it's about the salts. I think in the US you have Gatorade, which has got electrolytes in it. That's very good. Over here, obviously, we have other things. So replace those salts, people. Stay safe. So grab that drink of choice. And today I've gone back to my ever so faithful cherries and berries in my large Joe Crab Shack glass. But you can choose tea, coffee, or in some cases, especially in this weather, water, sparkling or otherwise, creating it to be lovely and cold and healthy for you. Or you can be like some people, where they might want to sit in a pub garden and have a nice glass of cold Chardonnay or a rosé, because that might be your drink of choice, and because, well, somewhere on this planet is 5 o'clock somewhere. So grab your drink and let's dive right in. So, Bubbles, today I am talking about Meghan Markle teenage years. Now, if you haven't seen my video from yesterday, it is where I have done the early years, where I've spoken a little bit about where I believe this kind of narcissistic personality kind of started to develop. Now, obviously at this stage, we wouldn't call it narcissistic personality disorder. It's just very much spoilt behavior. So this is where she's been overindulged. So one of the things that I kind of wanted to touch on was, I just have to bring up my notes, was what was interesting to me is when you have a child that's being overindulged, given everything by their father, usually this is usually conducive of being an only child, but Meghan isn't, or guilt. Now, what I find interesting is that there was obviously when Meghan was living with her parents up until around the age of 6 years old, and this is all allegedly, this is things that I've found online. Now, again, I do think a lot of things have been scrubbed from online because I found it very difficult to find anything really of substance. But when I tried to do some research on this apparent that suddenly Doria decided to take up being a flight attendant, and this was one of the reasons why Meghan lived with her father for a lot of her teenage years. I couldn't find any evidence of this whatsoever. I couldn't find any information on what airline she worked at, you know. So then this kind of plays into, because what I have seen is a lot of interesting information on whether Doria was actually in prison for around this time for tax evasion. So this was around 4 years. So I don't know whether there's any truth to this, but I have certainly seen a lot of information that has come out in regards to what people have said online, that this is what they believe. They believe that Doria was actually sent to prison for what was deemed as tax evasion. Now, again, I can't find any evidence of this, but it would make a lot of sense to me because I haven't seen any photographs of Meghan around this kind of age with her mother. There's no video footage that I've found of her with her mother, but then she suddenly appears later on. And this would make a lot of sense to me if her father was kind of making up for the fact that her mother wasn't around. Because even if they'd split up, yes, parents can feel guilty, they can overcompensate, and that's not completely unheard of. But it kind of comes down to this nature versus nurture. Now, one of the biggest things usually with narcissistic personality disorders being developed is around this nature versus nurture. And it is either an absent mother or a very dominant mother, because it's not usually if it's a dominant father, that doesn't usually always, especially in girls, it is usually an absent mother or a dominant mother. Now, obviously I think she is quite a dominant personality. There's obviously where a lot of people have said that they believe that Doria also was narcissistic and a gold digger. But obviously this video is about Meghan. So it's very sort of where she's kind of adopted this same personality as Doria, but also as well then she's very spoilt by her father. She's very indulged. Every whim is and then you have this the lack of the mother figure in quite a pinnacle part of her age, around her early teenage years. So this could explain a lot of where this started to develop in my opinion. Now, one of the differences with, when people have said to me, about sociopathic behavior, psychopathic behavior, or personality, is that you can actually have a very good upbringing but still become this. So in a way, Meghan did have a very good upbringing. She literally had everything she wanted, and there is no evidence to show that she ever struggled financially. Her father literally gave her everything she wanted. I mean, the fact that she went to Europe, she was very good friends with this, now I appreciate that I'm not going to maybe say her name right, Ninaki Pridi, Pridi, and she was best friends with this girl from 2 years old till right up until she married Trevor Eggleston. So this kind of young lady who seems to also come from quite a wealthy family, because they're traveling around Europe. She's visiting Buckingham Palace, albeit that she said that she knew nothing about Prince Harry. But, if you're going to visit Buckingham Palace, then you know about the royal family. You might not know in-depth things at that age, but you certainly know, the royal family, the Queen, Charles, Diana. She had a book on Diana as she was growing up. She wanted to be a princess. This kind of behavior, and the fact that they stayed in, let me get this right, the Kensington Hotel, which is not a cheap hotel. I mean, even now, a room is around, a twin room, which I imagine is probably something they would have stayed in, now is around $5, say if they wanted to stay from Friday to Sunday or over the weekend, it's something like nearly £600, to stay in that hotel. So all right, I appreciate that back then the prices would have been different, but it's still in contrast still would have been an expensive hotel to stay in. And then not only there's a photograph of them where they've gone to the Diamond House and they're flashing their diamond ring. So they had money between the two of them. They had money which obviously would have come from parents, because I'm pretty much sure that Meghan wouldn't have had that kind of money herself at that age. So it feels that her father was literally like, whatever you want, you can have it. Like I said in the previous video, she's going horse riding, she's going on various holidays, they've stayed in cabins, she's doing tap, she's doing theatre, anything that this girl wanted to try. And I'd imagine it was kind of like, Daddy, I want to do this, and even if it's, I'll try it, and then she's like, oh, I'm bored of that now, because so it'd have been like, oh, I've tried that's boring, don't want to do that, I want to try this. I want to go to Europe. Okay, daughter, here you go. And this kind of feels like the theme of Meghan's early years in growing up. It was literally no matter what she wanted, she got. So you're setting this right up from the word go. Now, a lot of people have said, you know, is Thomas Markle to blame? Well, in a way, yes and no, because I think as a parent, we all try to do the best for our children. You know, as a parent, you know, and any parent that goes through a divorce, and I've certainly worked with parents who have gone through divorces, you do try to overcompensate so your child doesn't feel that hurt and pain. So especially if one of the parents disappears, goes off the scene or isn't around as much, you know, you do overcompensate. Now, they obviously had that kind of money to sort of step it up a little bit, because for the most part, if we're going to overcompensate, it might be getting extra ice cream at the weekend, you know, something, or you might have like a day out at a zoo rather than stay at home. You know, Meghan was very much overindulged, and you can see by her attitude that there was this lack of respect, and that comes from not having boundaries. That comes from not learning this. She starts to learn that if I moan, if I complain, if I cry even, you know, turn on the waterworks, I will get what I want. Daddy will give me what I want. So what happens there is that she doesn't have a lot of respect for him, because she's not learnt this along the way. If he's not creating this boundary of respect, she's not going to show it. And you can definitely see this in the footage that I've seen so far going up the kind of chain of her age. She's very much like that, to the point where, you know, you even can see, I think in 1998, there's some footage of her. She's had the gap done in her teeth. So obviously this is something that bothered her. So this work that she has done on herself has started quite early on, I think. She went to, not the schooling, is it Immaculate Heart College and college, get it right, Emma. I think a lot of this again is where the things that have come out about her, I can only really find a lot of favourable stuff when we go into her uni years, where she's is it part of the Kappa, I mean, I don't know how that works over there, because we don't have that here, I don't think. But she's a Kappa girl or something. Are they called that? Maybe you guys can let me know. And then obviously the rumours being that she glued a sorority sister's eyes shut for a joke. And apparently, allegedly, her father paid this off. Now, again, can't find any evidence to this. Of course, I don't believe there would be. They would have scrubbed that from the internet. But if that's true, what this basically shows me is that Meghan Markle will infiltrate wherever she needs to be popular. So if she's in amongst these Kappa girls and they're all doing this stuff to stay popular and relevant within that group, she will do things like that. The fact then, if her father then paid it off, because apparently he won the lottery, so if he paid this off, what does that show? I can do whatever I want and there are no consequences. It gets erased. And who else was like that? Harry. I can do whatever I want and my family sort it all out. It gets scrubbed or their excuses are made. So these two actually, believe it or not, actually have a very, very similar background. Her mother disappears, whether it be she's an air stewardess or she goes into prison at an early age. Her parents divorce at an early age. Harry loses his mother at an early age. Their parents divorce at an early age. Spoiled, entitled, privileged, allowed to kind of get away with things. So no wonder, in a way, these two, when they did come together, they had this kind of shared background, albeit that I think Meghan probably kind of initially sort of stated how awful her family life was, but like I say, I'll get to that in another video. So you have this very entitled young lady growing up, and then you see footage then of her kind of around 18 years where she's driving around going for auditions. You know, she had this footage of her where she's got a personalized number plate, and you know, and then it's, what's another one? In 2003, her and her friend Ninaki drove home after they graduated from Northwestern University. They drove to Las Vegas and they stayed at the Bellagio Hotel. And the reason being that Meghan chose this hotel, which is one of the most expensive hotels in Las Vegas, by the way. But she chose this hotel because George Clooney was at that hotel, and it was to do with Ocean's 11, which was one of her favourite films. Who turned up at her wedding? George Clooney. So this, you know, she's orchestrated a lot of these things right from a very young age. It's kind of all slotted into place. And so then you got this footage of her where she's driving around LA, Hollywood, at the age of 18, and then she shows a picture of her car with a personalized number plate saying classy girl. And she literally says in kind of a very almost attitudey tone, yeah, a car my ex-boyfriend got me. So already, again, she's literally setting up, you know, my daddy gets me whatever I want, and then I'm going to date guys that get me whatever I want. I want a car, my ex got me a car. You know, not I've worked hard for my car and I bought it out of my own money, which a lot of us youngsters do. I know I did. My first car cost me, I think, £400. It was a clapped out old Fiesta. You know, with the stereo with wires hanging down. But you know what? I was so proud of that car because it was my first car, you know, when I first passed my test, and I bought it with my own money. And I think for a long time, I even kept the receipt, you know, £400. You know, so, but with Meghan, it's a case of, she doesn't get it with her own money. She gets it with somebody else gets it for her. And I think this really does kind of go the whole way along. I mean, she might buy herself the odd things, but they're very high end. She tries to be very high end. And Meghan strikes me as someone that did that initially. She created this, you know, to kind of try and get into being a star. She would go to these places, and so she would meet with people that got her there. So I think with Ninaki, her Naki, you know, come from quite a wealthy family. So she kind of was there. Her dad, you know, got her everything she wanted. So she was able to kind of infiltrate that scene. Then she starts going to auditions, and, you know, and she consistently, you know, she talks about money. She talks about, oh, I could get $600 for that, or, you know, or $200. That's okay, you know. And then talks about Gucci and Armani, and, you know, so she's very, what I would call superficial. And she's really kind of about that fame and money right from a very young age, I would say. Buying $300 boots, staying at the Beverly Hilton Hotel at 18 years of age. This is not a humble beginning, a humble background. It's really not. And even the, you know, footage of Doria having a personalized number plate, which you start to then see Doria come back on the scene. At around, I think 17, 18 years of age. And when she graduates, there is a footage, which again I will put, and I do apologize, guys, I know you don't like seeing this footage of Meghan. Believe you me, if I've got to suffer, you've got to suffer. But I will put this one clip, and I'm going to again slow it down so you can see. She comes out and her dad is filming. She literally, and she looks almost irritated, and she literally just goes, hi daddy, and then she literally just bypasses him and goes straight to her mum and gives her mum a hug. It's almost like he's ignored. And right there, in my opinion, is where you really see this change within her, you know, because this man has raised her pretty much. This man has given her everything she wants and needs, and probably stuff that she didn't even need. He's literally done everything for her. And in that moment, you just see this kind of like this lack of respect that has been developing over the years. I think you see it in kind of full form there. And this point on, I believe, is when it starts to really set in, you know, because now she's 18, you know, she's now becoming an adult, and, you know, she knows right from wrong. And at this point, I'd imagine she's still using daddy's money, you know. And why I believe that he was of no longer any use to her was when he no longer had any money. He was no longer able to give her what she wanted. So she then went to the next ladder, the next rung of the ladder. And that's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. So let me know what you think in the comments, guys. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it. If you like more than one of my videos, please think about subscribing to my channel, because it really does help the algorithm and it helps promote me for this channel to be successful. If you'd like to tip me by buying me a cup of tea and help, help this channel, then I'd be very happy with that, because, well, who doesn't like a nice good cup of tea? If you would like to become a member, it is $2.99 and you can join up right next to the subscribe button. And what else? I think that's it. So have a wonderful rest of the day, guys. As always, I love and appreciate you, and I respect you all. Thank you for the amazing comments. Thank you for just, you being you. And I will see you tomorrow in my next installment. Take care.